Welcome to the Robert Barham Show. I am Robert Barham, and today we have another wonderful guest, someone that I have been looking forward to being here to have an in-depth conversation about something that I am just fascinated by, which is the alphabet and the letters of the alphabet, the 26 letters. Today, author and alphabetician Vimala Rodgers is here. Vimala, hi, how are you?
Well, I'm doing fine, Robert. How are you?
I'm okay, and thank you so much for being here today. We're going to have some fun. I know that most people probably know that the 26 letters of the alphabet are symbols, they're representations for a sound and that sort of thing. But my impression is that most people don't know that the letters actually are, they have much more than that going on in any individual letter. Is that the case?
That is the case, yes.
Well, could you tell me, Vimala, just a little bit about yourself? Because I know our listeners are going to want to know a little bit about you. You did? Did you go to Stanford? Is that correct?
I took classes there. I graduated from Holy Names, but
Holy
I
names.
got
Okay.
a master's. But at Stanford, I took some psychology classes, yes. And the professors were fascinated by the science that I teach. So we had a lot of fun. We had a good time at Stanford, yeah.
Very good. Interesting. Now you are the author of Transform Your Writing or
No,
Transform Your Life Through Handwriting, which is a kit.
yes, that is a kid, yeah.
You also are the author of a book on ligatures, which we probably will, hopefully, we can get to just a little bit of it today. You're also author of another book that I like very much, which is all about changing your handwriting and how that can change your life. And
Absolutely. And that's the focus of what I do, what I share, yeah.
right, and that is something that I think is absolutely phenomenal. The idea that handwriting and the system that you have created is something where someone can pick up the pen and begin to change their life, change themselves.
Absolutely.
Absolutely phenomenal stuff. So, would you make a distinction between what you are you a handwriting analyst or
No. A
alphabetician?
handwriting analyst technically is a graphologist, and a graphologist or a handwriting analyst looks at angles, wedges, loops, and things, but they know nothing about the letters. My life is dedicated to sharing the warmth and the spiritual aspects of the letters of the alphabet. I was trained as a graphologist as when I was about 12 or 13. I thought, this is really boring. It's like the story isn't there because been fascinated with the letters since I was, well, 2 years old, 4 years old. And the letters are what fascinate me. And I just hope by the time we finish this show, other people will be fascinated too. But I say, whoever's listening, pick up your pen, get a piece of paper, and take notes. You're going to have fun.
Okay. Now, just so our listeners know, you're not in your teens and you're not in your 20s. You've actually been at this body of knowledge. This, I guess, I think it's a kind of mastery of the alphabet and handwriting for quite a long time. Is that correct?
All right. Well, I've been fascinated from the time I was little. I was in trouble with taking notes out of the milk bottles on the back porch because I couldn't read, but I was fascinated with the what was written with the letters, and I got in trouble with that, and I was 2 years old because I was fascinated with what that script, the marks were on the paper. And again, when I was 4 years old, it just goes on and on through my life. And everybody listening to this show, you are the same way. There's a fascination you have that nobody has ever had in the whole world, of the billions of people. Everyone is unique. Everyone sees life a little bit differently.
Yeah.
And that's what I really intend that people will begin to pick up their pen in this show and change, particularly maybe one or two letters that might really just awaken them. Because most people, everybody has a dream about something. And most people just don't share it. They're too short, they're too tall, they're female. They make an excuse. And when you change your handwriting specifically, that dream comes forward. So anyway, I worked with a lot of scientists as well.
Well, it's interesting that you say that because in my work with the people that I've worked with, I've noticed that that is accurate. Everyone has a dream, and you can watch that when they talk about it, it does come forward and they light up. Now, so what is it about the letters themselves that is so truly special?
Because each one is I've studied them. I don't believe anything, and I ask anyone listening, don't believe anything I tell you about the letters, because belief can change in a blink. Truth lives in experience. If you want to find out what I'm saying is true or not true, pick up your pen and just find a sample of my letters. You can go on my website and copy it. Just get the A to Z and look at the letters and choose 2 or 3, no more than that. Write them every day for 40 days and see what happens. And even my psychology professor, Stanford, changed his writing, and his life dramatically changed. But it's a matter of doing and not believing it. Don't believe it.
So this is not something that is just for kids. I've talked with many people about this handwriting and this particular kind of handwriting, and it's not. I've encountered on more than one occasion a kind of flippant attitude that, well, that's just kid stuff, or this is for kids, or that sort of thing, or it's like it's they almost try to make it equivalent to the kind of handwriting one learns in elementary school. But this is really not that at all, is it?
No, it isn't, because that's called penmanship, and Palmer and whoever else, but they, with the reason they created the letters the way they did to simplify it, because in the 19th century it was very complicated and swirly and very difficult to imitate. And Palmer and Donnelly, a couple other people, simplified the handwriting, but they knew nothing about the energy of the letters. They just created the shapes. And what I have done in my lifetime is to study handwriting. I have collected hundreds of samples of very well-known people, and I study everything. I don't believe anything. I have to prove it. And when I look at that uppercase A, it's a big fat round A. Don't do that. I mean, because every letter that I've discussed, all 26 of them, as I say, since I was little. And then in 1981, everybody made fun of me going to school, but 1981, I was reading a book called the Bhagavad Gita, which is called the Song of God in India. And I opened up to chapter 16. I started reading. I thought, oh, for heaven's sakes. And it says, there are 26 qualities we must perfect before we can be free of ego. And I thought, 26. So I started reading each quality one at a time. All 26 are listed, and each one reflects a letter in a quality in one of the letters of our Roman alphabet. And that it's the first time I've really been validated, and it's pretty exciting. But everyone here has a dream too. And you say, well, nobody believes it. Nobody's ever heard about it, whatever it is. It doesn't matter. You have a dream about anything, and especially now with the world so wide open for ideas. Take notes on your ideas when you get them. Take little notes, because everybody listening to this show is curious about something, especially the letters. We only started with 18 of them, by the way. And I know the history of every letter in our alphabet. Some of them are pretty funny. But I've also studied other alphabets. But whatever you like to do, whatever you are fascinated by, you say, golly, if this could happen, maybe that would happen. Like years ago, going from...
Interrupt for just a second here. Something just occurred to me, if you don't mind.
No.
I want to backtrack because you know this stuff so well, but I maybe I'm not trying to be overly protective of our listenership, but could you go back? Palmer was someone who created a version or form of the English alphabet for handwriting, correct?
I call it the Roman alphabet because the English alphabet's different. But he created a simplified penmanship, whereas before it had been very complicated. And if you go back, all the documents and all that were written, everybody wrote exactly the same and very sophisticated and very hard to read at times. And Palmer said, the kids can't do this. So he simplified it and called it the Palmer system. Yeah.
That Palmer is it the person, correct?
Yes, definitely.
Okay. And that is a man or woman or?
It was a man. It was an American.
And you've also mentioned before, right around the same time, you mentioned another name, which I believe was Spencer, and you said Spencerian?
The Spencerian alphabet was before. It was very complicated, and that's before Palmer. And there was Donnellian, who came after Palmer, but they all, their purpose was to simplify writing the letters to make it easy for kids. And they knew nothing about what the letters meant or what each stroke of the letter meant. And I've studied them, as I say, for my lifetime. And it's utterly fascinating because always be the best person we can be and bring our dreams alive. And you can. And I've worked with hundreds of people, especially when I was in Palo Alto, where my office started. So many people there had doubts. Well, mention my psych prof. I mentioned him before. I said, if you look at your writing, Jeffrey, I'll give you some things to change. Do it for 40 days. And I'd see him at his desk, literally biting his tongue and writing that, a couple of sheets every day. And well before 40 days, the dream he had always wanted came true. And what I ask people to do, if indeed you're going to pick up your pen and perhaps read Your Handwriting Can Change Your Life or whatever book I've written, think in your mind, what is it that I wanted to do my whole life, but and if I could create it, it would give me a sense of fulfillment and joy. One thing, it could be a happy relationship, it could be anything. But what is missing in your life that if you had it would fill you with a sense of joy and fulfillment, and you could serve? Everybody wants to make a difference in the world. Look around right now.
Yeah, it's really something. So if I understand what you're saying, and you were mentioning Spencerian, Danielian, Palmer, and then there's you. So am I correct in understanding that this is sort of like it's like the next step? It's an upgrade. It's an evolution of the handwriting, the alphabetical handwriting system. Is that correct?
Well, really, you could say it's an upgrade, but also it's a spiritualization, because the alphabet is a spiritual path, if you want to look at it that way. Every letter represents a part of us, of those 26 qualities that's mentioned in the Bhagavad Gita. And they were so specifically mentioned. And I thought, oh, they didn't mention the Roman letter. They just mentioned the 26 qualities. I thought, that's an M. Oh, that's what the L means. That's the K. I mean, it just was very exciting. And whoever is listening and maybe has an idea about something going on in the universe and you could change it, pray, talk to God and say, hey, God, this is mine. You've given me the wisdom and the heart to know how to develop this. Guide me, guide me, guide me. And, I don't care what you call God. God has so many names. In fact, the story I like best about what the alphabet brings forth in a person, like writing the A or writing the R, writing whatever letter it is. There was a saint in India by the name of Kabir, 15th century, and he preached about Moses. He preached about Jesus. He preached about Muhammad, the Buddha. And one day he was talking to a group of teenage boys outside a temple in Gurgaon. And one of them stood up and raised his hand and said, what's the right path to God anyway? And Kabir looked at him and he smiled and he said, path. Path presupposes distance. Since God is within you, where are you going? And that is the purpose of that, because when you use the letters I've designed in your handwriting, you are accessing the God within. In my early books, I called it soul writing, but it's the same thing. But we all get that everyone ever born and alive right now and billions of years before, everyone was from the same creator. I don't care if you're gay, straight, white, black, male, female, you all came from the same creator. And every one of us has a dream. And you can have maybe been made fun of it, or who would ever do. I was. Oh my gosh, I was.
You were made fun of?
Oh, I was made fun of because I'd say, cross your T on top, for heaven's sakes. And then in school, of course, you cross it midway down. I said, oh, you'd just be like everybody else if you do that.
Now,
I
where did that come from? How did you know that about crossing your T, the crossbar?
I learned by doing things, by experimenting, and I also learned by observing the writing of other people. And
can you give an example of some of these people that you modeled or that you observed their writing?
Oh, I have. There are hundreds. But even way back to Harry Truman, I mean, voting, I would vote because I'd look at their handwriting. But anyway, we don't need to get in that direction. But I know because I have experimented, and I believe nothing. I have to. People call it research, and I'm not researching because that means searching twice. It's investigating. I investigate everything. And that's why I'm an organic gardener. I investigated the power of planting happy plants together. You'll never use a pesticide. I mean, I investigate everything. And the letters of the alphabet I have investigated for many, many years, and they have become actually like my kids. I mean, I have enough kids, but I mean, really, they're like good friends. And the way I look at it is, God makes things so simple, and we complicate it. We could, anyway, when you write a healthy R or healthy B, which would be your two letters, each one means something different. And when you begin to write those letters, upper and lowercase, that idea in you, that dream, that vision in you will begin to manifest. I know because I did it. And I mean, usually for people, in my experience with 40 years of doing this, it usually takes a tragedy for someone to wake up and say, well, I don't care what anybody thinks, I'm going to do this. And that's what it took for me, because I was made fun of, as I say, my whole life. And two of my kids died within 6 months of each other. And I said, you know what, God, I'm going to take this handwriting in the world, and I don't care what anybody thinks. And I wrote my first book.
Wow.
It was well received, but and again and again, it usually takes a tragedy, something to wake people up.
The title of your first book is?
What was the first book? 1989 or 9. Change Your Handwriting, Change Your Life.
Change Your Handwriting, Change Your Life.
And actually that title and that book information was stolen by other people. But
I saw there were a number of books that came out with that title sort of structure, which is Change Your Blank, Change Your Blank.
Right. And one of the several, anyway, I won't go into that, but I just know that God makes it so simple. Make her be this way. Don't do it that way. Don't put a hook in that. And I look at the letters C. I mean, all letters have a meaning. And you can, when I look at a person's writing, I don't read what they've written because that isn't important to me. I look at how they form their letters and I say, and it isn't a matter of magic or mysticism. In fact, it was what's his name? Einstein, who said, people said, well, what about, isn't science spiritual? He said, science without religion is lame, and religion without science is blind. And I don't use the word religion because religion says you have to believe things, but spirituality, that's what we want in the world. Those are the people who, like Nikola Tesla, who's one of my heroes, by the way. And if people listening think Tesla's related to a car, forget that and go back to find out who Nikola Tesla was from Croatia. Dreamer and a visionary. And anyway, but it, and when we move our pen, it isn't really dictated by the hand, it's dictated by the subconscious mind. Because if you and I were in the same room, Robert, and say a chandelier fell or something, you would interpret that one way, I would interpret it another.
Sure.
It's how life is. And when we interpret that, that's how the subconscious mind implants how we interpret life. When you change the way you write, you change that. It takes 40 days. And in 1973, Jerry Kanowski in Poland, sociologist, who gave the term because...
Say that again, neuro what?
He called it a neuroplasticity.
Neuroplasticity, okay.
40 days for the brain to change patterns, and it does. It absolutely physically shifts. And in Sanford, they just call it cortical remapping because the brain's ability to rewire itself, and that's what you're doing when you change your handwriting. And it's just, and I've seen it in so many people that I just did not, they thought, oh, this is nonsense. And I said, okay, you want to prove it? Pick up your pen. And I'd give them 3 letters to write every single day for 40 days, and their whole life changed, every single one. Because it isn't magic. It isn't in fact, Einstein's one of my favorite people, but he also said, the most profound emotion we can experience is the sensation of the mystical. It is the source of all true science. So anyone here is thinking, oh, it's just a dream, and I don't know if I could do it. Just honor it and pick up your pen and begin to write anything. You would get a copy of my alphabet and choose 3 letters and write, and don't use lined paper. Just write 3 lines of that letter every day for 40 days, and you can't skip a day.
Yeah, I think, that you said that about the mystical. I have found that in my investigation that you're right. If you go and find the writings of some of these scientists, like the quantum physicists, they actually have wrote quite a bit about their own sort of mystical experiences that led them to then try to create scientific experiments, et cetera, which
absolutely, yeah.
Many people don't realize that many scientists have this side to them that is the mystic within them, the mystical.
And that's what Einstein said. He said, mysticism is a source of all true science. And he was brilliant. I mean, he was a thinker, but he meditated. And one of the things I encourage anybody listening, please take at least 20 minutes a day to sit quietly and be quiet. No radio, no TV, nothing going on. Just be quiet with your own mind. And if you care to, just invisibly talk to God, say, well, here we are. Guide me, bless me, show me the way. And that's the one prayer I give all my students. Guide me, bless me, show me the way.
Yeah, go ahead. I'm sorry.
No, and so anyone who wants to have their dream, manifest, you can go out to my website and just copy a picture of my alphabet if you want to, and choose 3 letters, upper and lower case. Just choose them and start writing them with your pen. Don't use a pencil and don't use black ink. A pencil can be erased, and every letter has a color, but no letter is black. So any other color.
Every letter has a color. No letter, none is black. Correct. And then letters. Now, in the case of, let's say, my name, my first name is Robert, and the first letter of my first name is R. My last name is Barham. The first letter is B, second letter is A. Now, what is it that's when you write about the importance of one's name and that how it relates to one's what will we say, their path in life, their calling, is that
Their vision.
their vision, that they're here to make a reality, correct?
Right. To bring it alive. And I've seen the writing. I study. I mean, I collect handwriting, and just to see if I could get the personality out, see how, and if it's somebody that's alive and still would listen, I'd suggest handwriting changes. But I have a whole file drawer full of handwriting of famous people.
If you were to, okay, so in the case of, let's say, the genius Nikola Tesla,
Yes.
first letter of his name is N. Now, what is it? What's the special about the letter N and its meaning?
Letter N is awesome. And for people who have trouble making friends or really honoring who they are, I suggest they write lines of it, because the N is the letter of friendship. And the inner voice is, my friends love and trust me. And everybody loved and trusted Nikola Tesla because he was honest, he was straightforward, he didn't, he just loved his life. And the T, of course, is the letter of the visionary. So, I mean, but every letter has a rich history behind it. And as I say, when I first started studying these, I was little, and I realized there were only 18 letters to begin with. How do we get I mean, it's like a science fiction movie, how the letters came about and where they came from. And the letter Z, as in zebra, was first the 7th letter of the alphabet.
Is that in the English or another alphabet?
In English, I don't call it English, I call it Roman alphabet. But in our alphabet, the letter Z was the 7th letter.
So it was F, Z, Z?
Yeah, the Romans said it would be the 7th letter. So one of the senator's wives just said, well, I don't like that letter. At the 7th, it should have more distinction. So they kept creating the letters, and 13 years later, they said, oh, what the heck, and they put it at the end to keep her happy.
Oh, my gosh.
Every letter has such a delightful history. It's anyway.
There's also something there, the ampersand is not a letter, but most people think it's just a symbol for the and word, and that's not the case, is it?
Well, it's what it is. It's the ET, and it actually, when children used to learn, maybe for 100 years ago, maybe before that, they would get to the Z and then they put the ampersand because it means that's the end of the alphabet.
Okay, and now, and what other letters? Like the letter J is one, correct? That's one that came into the alphabet later on?
The J, the funny thing, when I speak to a group, I hold up a $100 bill. I used to in Palo Alto. And before people knew this. And I said, okay, if anybody in this room can guess within 15 years when the letter J became the authorized letter in our alphabet, this $100 bill is yours. And people, because we had studied the history of, we talked about in 2 hours, about the history of each letter. And they all guessed, 1292, 14 years. I said, nope. And I put the $100 back in my pocket and said, the letter J was officially introduced to our dictionary in the year 1863. And they went, no, what about President Johnson and Jackson? I said, they used it, but it was not authentic. It was not, it wasn't a legal letter then. But it just, the J was a very last letter, and it's an amazing letter. And the energy of that letter, it tickles me because many people have a name that starts with J. And the J is honoring your insights. When I speak to a group of men, I call it insights. When I speak to women, I call it intuition, because it's the same thing. But we get those feelings, I know, oh my God. And all of a sudden something comes to you, keep your pen handy and write it down because you'll forget it otherwise. And that's what the J is all about. The J is a fabulous letter. But they all are. They're like
the energy is a little bit like I know it, I can't explain how I know it at the moment, but I just know it, I know it. Is it kind of like that?
Like that, and you're taking a trip somewhere, you've always turned left at a corner, and you think, I'm going to turn right this time. And you have no idea why.
Ah.
You turn right, and then you look back, and there had been a car crash if you had turned left. So, I mean, and I know, I don't know about all men, but women honor this usually quite well. And it isn't a matter, it's just beautiful, especially J people. And my oldest daughter starts with letter J. It's amazing, but And how do people say, how do you know what the letters mean? Because I have studied them, I have investigated them, and I have, I would say, filing drawers. And there's a lot of things that I would start with. You say the capital A, and that round thing we learned in school, that's a big fat ego, self-importance. You want to do the star A, which anyway, it looks like a point at the top. I mean, you can look at my alphabet and find one. If your name starts with an A, for heaven's sakes, don't do that big fat round one. And speaking of round, the one letter that
is there for the big fat round A? Is it?
What is big fat round A? No, that's ego.
Ah,
that's
okay.
So important. Oh, I'm so important, and I met center stage. But when you, I haven't sent you any particular singular letters, but that letter is the most sacred letter in all alphabets, and I've studied 26 writing systems. And that A, and how it made it first.
Sorry, Vimala, can you slow down just for a moment? When you say 26 different systems, are you talking about different alphabetical systems?
Yes.
So does that mean like not only English but Roman, what Greek, what Sanskrit, that sort of thing?
The Devanagari alphabet, yes, and the Phoenician, and going way, way back. And they all, every alphabet I've studied, the tradition, there's a tradition within it, and it all goes back to the God within. That's the term I'll use, but every alphabet I've studied is a spiritual tradition, every one. And it's just a fascinating study. It's just, and when you know how the Aleph got into the Hebrew alphabet, it was just so funny. But anyway, but
the A, correct?
Yes, the A. Well, the Aleph in Hebrew, but
I think of Aleph as being that term is like associated with Hebrew, and also for some reason I think of Kabbalah when I think of that Aleph.
Yes, it is, but anyway, the letters in all traditions, all writing traditions, their alphabet is a sacred tradition, and writing it in a certain way brings out a certain aspect in you. And that's why I created my own alphabet after all these years of study. And every letter in the Vimala alphabet, when you draw every letter as I have described, it's very simple and basic and open. You access the God within instead of the negative part. It's just you're accessing and I call it your noblest self, or your whatever you wish to call it, but I call it the God within. After I heard Kabir's story, I said, that's what it is. And you look around the world, and everyone listening to the show has a vision of something, a dream of something that could make the world a happier place, especially now.
There are some fairly skeptical or cynical folks out there, and what you've said, don't believe me. What if someone, after hearing, like, it's obvious from our conversation so far that you have done some real work in this area. What if someone says, I don't believe what you say about the letters, Vimala?
Right.
What do you say to them? You just say, pick up the pen.
I said, as I said in the beginning, don't believe anything I tell you. If you really want to know that what I'm saying is valid or invalid, pick up your pen. I'll give you 3 letters to write for 40 days, and then you'll know. You'll have your own answer. But if you don't want to do it, you don't do it.
Now, you said 40 days. I've heard you say that many times. What is it about, other than I heard you say there's a quality to, or a relationship to neuroplasticity and cortical remapping in the brain by practicing this handwriting for 40 days.
Right.
Is there another, the 40 days things is something that I'm thinking of right now as in a lot of the literature, scriptural literature has that number. Is that correct?
The 40 days, it's a number of transformation. And in any, 40 anything. In fact, when the Jews were walking across, to Mount Sinai, it took them 40 days to get there. If you have a good stone in your hand, you could throw it and make it to Mount Sinai. But traditionally, 40 is the number that it takes for them, and that's how long it takes for the brain's patterns to remap themselves. They physically change. But 40 days, Jesus was in the tomb just 40.
That's it, right?
Look at it in Roman numerals, it's XL. And the X is combining all your life path into your heart, and the L is your spiritual nature. So, God was just having fun with us when he created everything down here. And the alphabet is just such a, I would say it's a good friend.
So now the shape of a letter, what I'm hearing is the shape of a letter, that it relates to who we are or our self-image in some way. How is that?
Absolutely. Well, the way you shape say the T, we mentioned it earlier. If you shape your T so it crosses in the middle, you're just like everybody else. Oh, you don't, you couldn't do that. You're not tall enough. Nobody would listen. Cross your T on top and see what happens. Nikola Tesla. I mean, I have a list of 13 people I put on a card who cross all their T's on the top. And they're all visionaries. They knew nothing about handwriting and what it meant, but automatically their heart of hearts said, we're going to do this. And the T was right on top. And I say, I don't believe things. I have to collect samples of writing to see what I see. And anybody listening to the show right now, two things I'd like them to do with their handwriting: cross every single lowercase and uppercase T right on the top, not the least bit below, but right on the top. And the second thing is, when you write an O, a circle, a nice circle, start at the top and go clockwise. We were taught to do the opposite.
Right. So we were taught to go from the 12 around to the 9 to the 6 to the 3 back to the 12 again. And you're saying to reverse that, go.
Don't ever do that.
9, 12. Correct?
Yeah, just start at the top of if you go by numbers, start at the 12, go around 1, 2, 3, 4, all the way around in a circle. And of all the people I've worked with, that letter is probably the hardest to change because we are so accustomed to doing it the wrong way, because we were taught that way. Well, but do it in a perfect circle, starting at the top and going, and starting at the top, go clockwise, get to the back to the top, and finish. Do not ever put a loop inside that letter, because the O is the letter of telling the truth. And if you do it, backwards, anyway, I'm not going to get into that, but just do your O's, starting at top all the way around. And the one thing I ask people to do, if indeed they decide to change one letter or two, do it every day. You can't skip a day. 40 days is the time it takes for the brain to remap. So, and at the end of that time, when you have done it for 40 days, look around at your life and see what has changed. And I know something will happen. I don't know what it'll be, but I know that it will have changed. So,
can you tell me some of the other folks, the other visionaries and geniuses? It sounds like, from what you said, Tesla, Einstein. Who are some of the other ones?
Oh, well, I know a few women, but many people
we would recognize, like they're well-known people.
Mohandas Gandhi, and I'm trying to find, I have a whole card with everybody's name on it, but people say, and the letters are revolutionary, especially the T. But when people like Maria Montessori, some people know her.
Sure, they're Montessori schools. Correct?
Absolutely. John Steinbeck wrote his cross T's on side. Abraham Lincoln, Carl Jung, Sally Ride, Mohandas Gandhi, Nikola Tesla, Annie S. Peck. Annie S. Peck climbed the tallest mountain in India it was probably 18 something. She had to wear boots and a long wool skirt because she was a woman, and she did it. So anyway, but I just collected these samples, and when I mention Mohandas Gandhi, people say, well, and I was talking about the letter K. Anyone listening whose name starts with a K, you are a rebel. Thank you. We need our rebels. And Mohandas Gandhi said, England is charging us for the salt out of the water that we take, and it's our Indian water. We shouldn't have to pay for it. So he was an attorney, and he was brilliant and very sweet, and he began to fast. And he said, no, do not pay for that salt that we take out. So the women started to go out there and take the salt and not pay for it, and they got beaten by the Indian police. And after about 3 days, the policeman said, we can't beat our people for this. And within 4 months, England left India. One man, nobody got shot, nobody got hurt, but determination and crossing. And people say, well, his name didn't have a K in it. I said, oh, yes, it did. Mohandas was his title. His first name was Karamachand, starts with a K.
Karamachand. Now, Mohandas means what? It's a title like...
it's a title like master or whatever. But anyone whose first name begins with a K, right now, I strongly suggest you do something in the world that will revolutionize thinking and bring us to a higher space of thinking. And K people do it like nobody else. I mean, but and everybody, I don't have a K in my name, and I had a vision. And you do, Robert, and you had a vision.
Yeah, yeah.
If you begin to just give energy to whatever that thought is that you have, as I say, I think everybody has one, but and I may be wrong, I don't know. But young people, especially now, the young people, oh my gosh, they are coming in with ideas that we never would have thought of, 50 years later. So it's just exciting, very exciting.
Now
And
you mentioned Abraham Lincoln, and earlier you mentioned the letter A, Aleph, and that being the most sacred letter in the different systems, different alphabetical systems. Abraham Lincoln most definitely had a vision and a dream, and that he helped this country with. And what is it about is the shape of his A? Is there what's distinct about that?
well, the A, and that's fact. I say when we write our A, start with a Lincoln foot, because instead of doing it big and round, he starts swooping up to the top of the upper zone and straight back down. I mean, his A in Abraham was just beautiful. And he was, but it's, and the A isn't so much a visionary as it is accessing your spirit within, rather than just being so self-important and I did it. It's just beautiful, just beautiful. And I'm sure anybody can go to my website and get a copy of my alphabet if they want it.
So now you came out with your first book in somewhere around 1989, 1990, and you've come out with some other things since that. You have a website, and your website is, what's the web address?
Oh, I made it very simple. It's vimalarodgers.com, and put a D in the middle of Rodgers, by the way.
And for those who might be curious, will you spell your name?
I will be delighted. V as in victory. I M as in mother, ALA, and then Rodgers, RODGERS.
I see. Okay. And now each one of these letters has a different quality. Can these qualities or attributes, will they correspond directly to those 26 qualities mentioned in the Bhagavad Gita?
Absolutely.
So, for example, if I take a look at the letter A, can you tell me what that relates to in the Bhagavad Gita? Which quality?
Well, it's the quality of, I could go into that, but who knows Sanskrit that's listening? And I used to translate it. But the A represents your spiritual nature, what you're here to do to elevate someone else thinking in a spiritual way. The A, like, as they say, all letters are sacred emanations of who we are inside, and the letters bring them out. And every letter, what could I say? It's a way of letting go of the ego and manifesting your soul and your spirit in all the things you do. That's what the A is about, because it's transforming your ego into pure spirit. And that's what it's all about. Look what Lincoln did. And not everybody does it. But as I'm saying, people say, well, what if I don't want to change my handwriting? I said, your life must be working beautifully. Don't change it.
Yeah, that was something else I wanted to make sure that I ask, is that there are those people who might say something like, well, I don't need to do that to change my life, or I don't have any problems in my life. And will you repeat that? What would you say?
I say, if your life is working the way you want it to, don't pick up your pen.
It seems though that most people do have things that they would like to change during the course of their life at some time, and things like that. And now, what is it that we've already talked about the fact that it is spiritual, and I understand that. And there's the scientific component. Are there any, let's say, is there a book or two that you could recommend in addition to your books that's supportive of, that, like if I were a student of yours, you'd say, read this book, or for...
No, I would, because that isn't going to prove anything. It's going to prove what somebody else has said it. My purpose in having anyone change their handwriting or their letters is to find out for themselves, not because somebody else said it, not because I said it. And that's why I say, don't believe what I tell you, because belief can change in a blink. If indeed you want to experience the truth of what I'm saying in these letters, pick up your pen, take on 3 changes for 40 days and write them every single day, and you'll know.
Very good. Now what about, so when you're writing, we all use pen or pencil or marker, and we do this on paper. It sounds like you're not talking about taking a digital stylus and putting it on an iPad or that kind of thing. It sounds like what you're saying is you haven't said pick up your pencil,
Oh,
or
no.
you've
I
said,
never want people to write with a pencil, because if you have a vision and you write it in pencil, it can be erased.
I see. And is there a specific kind of, and you've also mentioned about using something other than black, and that there's a color that relates to each one of the letters.
There is, and although the letter V is not purple, I use purple ink because I really, really like it.
Yeah.
Purple is my favorite color.
Is there some association with the purple for you, other than that you really, really like it?
The A ligature and several other ligatures, but just choose a color you like. Blue is quite common. Just don't use black and don't use pencil. That's all. There's a variety. You go out to a supply store, you know, an office supply store, you'll find hundreds of pens there. Choose the one you like. Make sure the nib that you write with is really the size you like. A ballpoint pen's fine. A gel pen's fine. And also, when you write and you're doing your practice letters on purpose, do not use lined paper. Use unlined paper, because when there's lines on the paper, it's as though somebody has already set something up for you and you're going to do it their way. Don't use lines. This is your vision, your dream. Pick up your pen, and when you write, turn the paper in the landscape direction. Don't do it portrait the way we were taught in school. Turn it the other way. And people say, why? I said, do it and find out. So, and if people don't want to do what they're told, then fine. That's how they run their life. It's fine. I'm not here to help anybody to say, oh, change your life. It's not working. I said, you're the one who knows. I don't know. In fact, yeah, I mean, I know very many well-known musicians, and I have all their handwriting. And one of them, who's one of my favorites, a very gentle human being, very, very talented. I just found out about 3 months ago, not only is he a talented musician, he just got his PhD in astrophysics in London. He's ahead of it, but I mean, he's in a rock band and all that. But so we can't blame anybody but ourselves for what works and what doesn't work. And whatever we're going through guides us in helping other people go through that same stuff. And that's why I've written, I actually have 7 books out, but just why I recommend that if life is not working quite the way you want to, choose a letter or 2, I'd say 3 for 40 days to begin with. Write them every day, and then write a sheet, writing them and discussing something using those letters. Every day, see what happens. What is half an hour in one day these days? Anyway.
It's not much of an investment of your time to take 30 minutes out each day, and most people are recommended to do that for some physical exercise. Particularly, right. The investment of your 30 minutes pays off in transforming yourself and your life. That's just a nominal investment in one's time. The letters that one learns to, is it writing? Is that the actual term? Is it inscribing the letters? Is there a specific word that one uses?
No, inscribing is a way of forming a letter or writing it. No, it's just choice of verbs. That's all.
I see. Okay. Now, if let's say I want to go back and share something with you, which is that I wrote in cursive when I was young. That's what I was taught in school. Right. I remember we were given these notepads or notebooks, and then we were supposed to write the letters exactly as they showed us, and we practiced, say, the letter S over and over and over again, capital and lowercase s, whatever the letter may be. Yeah. And that's how we were taught the alphabet. And I remember at some point, when I got a little bit older, I stopped writing in cursive and I started printing. And I also, for whatever reason, chose to write in black. And when I printed, I also decided that I wanted to print in all, for whatever reason, and this was before I ever knew anything about, on the web and the internet these days, if you type something in capitals, it means you're yelling. But when I changed my handwriting from cursive to print and black ink, I wrote in journals with lines, and I also wrote in all caps. And is there any significance to that?
Yes, when someone writes in all caps, or they capitalize words that shouldn't be capped, it's a way of hiding behind a wall.
I see. And
It's a way of not honoring part of who you are. Yeah.
I see. And then when one changes their handwriting and shifts, let's say in this case, from stops using the black, finds a notepad or it uses paper that has no lines in it, and takes the paper from profile to landscape, or excuse me, from portrait to landscape, and begins to use this style, the Vimala alphabet. What will happen to that exactly? Well, what kind of changes will occur?
Dramatic changes.
Well, I mean,
I doubt that anybody could take all the letters at once. Several people have tried, engineers, they want to do it all. And you can't do that. It just doesn't work. It's like learning, it's just like being on a bicycle and a trampoline at the same time. You can't do it. But when you take, as I say, most people, I suggest 3 letters at a time. Start with 3 for 40 days. And it's just a matter of writing lines of the letters, and then, maybe half a sheet about just a discussion about traffic or, whatever, but using those letters. But they all make a tremendous difference in the brain. And it's the subconscious mind is what decides who we say we are. And that's who moves the pen. The subconscious mind tells you how to move the pen, because the subconscious mind is how you tell yourself who you are. So, I mean, and that's what changes. I mean, there's studies have been done, and anyway. But if indeed you're doing all caps, I say don't do that, because it'll block you from really being who you are at the deepest level.
This is male and female, correct?
Very few females have I seen that do that, but a lot of men. But I know when you put if people are doing their regular writing and all of a sudden there's one letter that becomes a capital where it doesn't belong, that's a letter R. Don't capitalize it where it doesn't belong. I don't know why it's that letter, but it is.
Letter R.
There's the capital R all of a sudden, yeah, out of the blue.
Very interesting. So now we've got 26 letters, and you said there was 17 at one point. What can you give us an example, just something really simple of letters? Are there letters from other alphabets that have made their way into the English alphabet?
Not that I know of. Some have we taken from years gone by, because we started with 18, but that was many years ago. And no, but I know that with several of the, well, anyway, no, I'll just say no. There's no Phoenician letters in our alphabet. There's no Hebrew, no Aramaic, no, none of that. But I've studied them to see what they represented, and you learn a whole culture that way.
So, but those letters, like, do those letters that are in the English alphabet, like the ones that look like the Roman numerals, did they come from Roman?
No, if they look like Roman numerals, you're printed. The Romans didn't handwrite; they printed.
I see. All right. Now we're looking at basically you're saying do your diligence, do your work, pick up the pen, start writing with your hand. Now, what about the handedness? Is there something to writing with the left hand or the right hand? I tend to be a bit ambidextrous, but when it comes to handwriting, I write with my left hand. Are there any special observances for that, or? Please.
No, but I know what happened to me last year. It was in May, right before Mother's Day. In fact, it was the day before Mother's Day. We had arms full of groceries, and I tripped on a curb, and I fell on the cement, and I blocked my fall with my wrist, with my a fist, and I ended up breaking my wrist. I didn't know about the intimate relationship between the wrist and the fingers, and I could not write. I couldn't hold a pen. That's when I decided, oh no, I'll do internet classes. So I did. But yeah, it's whether you write with right or left hand makes no difference whatsoever. The only thing you want to do is turn your paper the other direction. Always landscape though. But and I realized then that I needed to do a lot of things with my left hand, and my left hand is doing a lot of things I never thought it would ever do, because I couldn't do them with my right hand. So, but left-handed people, right-handed people, no difference whatsoever. No.
I see. Very good. And with the letters themselves, and you're handwriting them cursively, what about I've noticed certain things too about like connecting letters or spacing letters or things like that. Can you talk just a little bit about that sort of those sort of qualities?
Well, some letter, you don't want to connect every single letter in a word. If there's one word, say 5 letters or more, break it up in the middle somewhere. You don't want to connect it all because that's just it's not creative thinking. And I look at Tesla's writing, and he broke his up regularly, and that's where I took the one of the R's he made consistently into my alphabet. I call it the Tesla R because it's different from the way we were taught our lowercase r. No, just why don't you ask your questions again? I'm looking at Einstein's handwriting here, and Mother Teresa's as well.
Well, okay. That brings up something, and I'll go back to what I said in just a second. But if someone, and let's say that I found a sample of Einstein's writing or Tesla's writing or Gandhi's handwriting or that sort of thing, if I were to trace their handwriting or practice writing like they, would I get a sense of what that person was like? Is that too much of a stretch, or is there possibly that I could get a sense of that person by doing their handwriting just like them?
I've never done it, so I don't know. But I do know when there's one funny thing I'm just thinking about. When I was speaking to a group in Palo, I used to do many different, 1-hour talks or 2-hour talks in Palo Alto, and I had this group of engineers, and way back then they were just beginning to design computer chips, for computers, brand new. And the person who ran their company happened to be one of my clients, so he said, I want you guys to listen to what she has about handwriting. So I gave a talk on handwriting, and one of the guys said, well, if I don't understand how somebody thinks, how can I get an idea? I said, well, you get a sample of their handwriting, and as close as you can, copy it, whether it's the letter form or the kind of pen or any of that, and see what you can do. If you can get at least maybe 5 or 6 good, well-written words, you can tell what that person's thinking. And then one of the guys said, could I understand my wife's writing? And everybody laughed, and I said, you guys are the tipless wonders of the world. You'll never get your wife's writing. And you can't, because anyway, but and if you want to write like somebody, they get a sample of 5 or 6 lines or words, they've written, and copy it exactly as closely as you can and see what happens.
See what happens.
If I haven't done something, I don't know. I can't tell you what will happen, but I know what might happen.
Now, my sense is, do you handwrite every day casually, right? You write every day, obviously. Do you keep up your writing as a discipline each day, still to this day?
Well, I don't call it is. I do write every day, but I don't call it discipline. I never call, when I train my students, I don't call it work. I said, call it joyful practice.
Joyful practice.
What you're doing is honoring, the God within. Joyful practice. A J and a P. But yeah, I write every day because I know what it means. It's just when you have, in fact, one of the books one of my graduates has written is called The Willingness to Change. She was in the 12-step program for, oh my golly, I don't know how many years. And her book is about if you're working, you don't have to be an addict, to take this book. It's anybody who has habits they don't like. And she took one step at a time, 1 through 12, and said, if this is your habit and you can't, blah, 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 here are the letters you need to start practice writing today. And she did it for all 12 steps. And people loved the book because it isn't about being addicted to something. It's about, oh my gosh, I never finish what I start, or I never, this and that. And she addresses all those habits in 12 steps. So it's just a way of shifting the brain patterns. That's all it is.
Wow, what a creative thing to do with the letters is to integrate it with the 12-step program.
Oh, absolutely, and it does work. She teaches classes too, but in fact, you're down south, right? And she's up in Rhode Island, but
yeah, I'm just outside Washington, D.C.
I know. Okay, I have. I've trained I just finished 2 6-month classes, and people from all over the world, because it was on the internet. Nobody had to, fly out here and stay for a week. And amazing changes happen in these people's lives, whether they're in Dubai and the UAE or Singapore or Germany or Ireland. They're all beautiful souls who really wanted their lives to work so they could serve humanity better. And they are amazing, amazing. In fact, 11 of them are now teaching my classes. They're authorized. But it's a way of being the best you can be. If people really want to honor their gifts, and I say everybody listening to this show has a special gift I've never had. You may never have had it, I don't know. But everyone ever born is different from every other person ever born. And everyone listening to this show is different from anybody else that's ever been alive. We can, and even though you take the twins, the identical twins who were astronauts, and one who went up, for what, 90 days or longer than, and the other one stayed here because Gabrielle Gifford was his wife, and she had been shot, but she was healing. But Scott and I think it was Scott and Mark, I'm not sure. And I saw their handwriting was almost identical, but not quite, and their habits were quite different. So, I collect handwriting from anybody I can get it from.
So, to go back, you do practice. Do you practice daily still?
Every day. And another thing too, I found out through, I had so many kids, and when I had 6 kids, and I had twins. Oh boy, and a very busy family. I had them all in about 13 years, and I was very busy. My husband was gone at work, but I've always been an early riser, getting up about what I thought 6, and I started waking up at 3:45 every morning, and I thought, what is going on here? I don't even feel tired. So I'd get up and I'd get things done. And then about a week into that, I kept waking up at the same time. And I said, I'm going to do my writing now instead of waiting till, the kids are up. So once I honored the what they call the time of God, the Brahma Muhurta. It's tradition in many, many spiritual teachings. 3:45 till 6 a.m. is the holy time of day. It's called the time of God. And if anybody here,
wherever you are in the world, when it's between 3:45 your time and 6 a.m. time, correct?
Their time, wherever you are, 3:45 and 6 a.m. And when that happened, not one of my kids woke up before 6 o'clock in the morning. I mean, I had twin babies. Oh my gosh, nobody fussed until 6 o'clock. And God's grace has a way of showering on us when we know what we're doing. And it's, but I write every day, yes, because well, what people would call a habit. It's a good habit. It's a soul-based habit, and it's like honoring the God within, and that's what I do. And today is a day because I teach the letters of the alphabet by family, because everything that is alive on the planet lives in a family somewhere, right? And there's 6 families of letters, and then the letter Z, who was the last one. We'll talk about that maybe, but they all come in the family of communication. We're born. And the first thing we do is look around, cry, whatever. It's our way of communicating. And the letter O is the second letter. And that's the letter of communicating with speech. I won't go on for the whole list, but every letter lives in a family. And it's just such a fun system, and it's so logical. As I say, God made things so simple, and we complicate it terribly. But if anyone goes to one of my books, you can go out to the internet, and you'll find, a sheet with my alphabet on it. Copy it, photocopy it, or copy it from the printer, from the internet, and just copy any 3 of the letters you choose to write. And it has to become a habit that if you get to day 37 and you can't get to day 40, you start again at day 1. It's happened to me before. But the number 40 is mystical, it's magical, and it's transformational.
Vimala, I want to thank you for being here on the show as our guest today. I'd love for you to come back and talk more about the letters at some point in the not too distant future. We have just a minute or so, less than a minute or so, before we need to wrap up. And I wanted to take this time to say thank you, and also to see if there was anything that you would like to share very quickly with our listeners.
No, it's just thank you for inviting me to the show. And I'm always honored to guide people in adopting a simplified way to honor their God within. We all have God within. Pick up your pen and say, oh, good morning, here I am. I start my morning every day with, good morning, God, thank you for another day. And then I begin my writing.
Very good. And with that, we're going to wrap up today's show. Our guest was Vimala Rodgers. We're here talking about the magic of the alphabet and transformation. My name is Robert Barham. You've been listening to The Robert Barham Show, and we will see you soon. In fact, we'll see you next week on Friday from 2 to 3 p.m. on the East Coast at Radio Fairfax. You all be well.